Hi everyone, my name is Kim Farrell. I am an 8th grade English language arts teacher at Sarasota Middle, and I'm going to walk you through my OneNote beginner tutorial. This tutorial will have everything from creating the notebook to basic notebook use. So this is for people and teachers specifically who have not used OneNote at all and need help walking through the setup process. If you are working in the Sarasota County School District, you would create your notebook in Office 365. So I'm going to go ahead and go there. Now you will have two notebook pages. The first app is Class Notebook. This is where, as it says, you organize your notebooks. This is where you create them, you add students, add teachers, things like that. When you're actually using the notebook, you use the OneNote app. So in order to create our notebook, we create in Class Notebook. And the Class Notebook is just going to be similar to a personal OneNote notebook, except that you can add your students to it and distribute and collect and grade work from there. So we are going to create a class notebook. As you can see, when you have a notebook already created, you can add or remove students, add or remove teachers, and manage your notebook where you can modify the elements in the notebook. But for today, we're going to create our class notebook. It walks you through this pretty simple step-by-step process. We are going to name our notebook, and I will create a sample one for today. You can title this however you see fit. One of the things I'm going to talk about is the different options you have when creating your notebook. So at this point, you will need to decide if you want to have an individual class period notebook or one large notebook. So do you want a notebook for period 1, period 2, period 3, where all of your class periods have been separated? Or do you want one large notebook with all of your students? If you are teaching multiple grade levels or multiple content areas, you would want for sure a different notebook for each content area or grade level because the curriculum is going to be different. Again, this boils down to a personal choice, whichever you prefer. If you have one large notebook with, say you have 3 class periods of 8th grade ELA, if you have one large notebook with all of those students in there, you don't have to copy things over into each period. But a con is that the grading is not able to be split by class period. And vice versa, if you have them by class period, you can grade by class period, but if as you can see, I have a period 1, a 3, a 5, and a 6. If I create something, I have to make sure it's in each one of those. It's a small extra step, but for me, it makes grading easier. So that is a preference for every teacher, however your classes are set up, whichever is going to be easier for you. This is going to talk about, on this page, your different options. There's a collaboration space. So this is where students can work together on collaborative projects. The content library, I consider this kind of like my teacher edition. So this is where I'm going to create materials that I want the students to have access to. So if I create a worksheet and I want them to be able to just see it, I can do that in the content library. The students can only view the content library. They cannot edit it. So that's why I kind of think of it as my teacher's edition area. There's a teacher only section that's new, and this is where you can create your lesson plans, maybe that you're not ready for the students to see yet. This is where I keep my planning book. And last but not least is the student notebooks, and this is a private workspace. When you create your notebook, the students will not be able to see each other's notebooks. They can only see and edit their own notebook. So scroll down just a little and click Next. If you have a co-teacher or teachers that teach the same subject area as you and you would like to have access to their notebooks, or if you would like them to have access to yours, this is the place where you would add them. Helps for sharing and collaborating. And if you have students, this is where you would type in their names. If you're in the Sarasota County School District, if you type even the first couple letters, their names will populate and then you can click on them. If you have a name like Smith, you might have to type Smith and the first initial and maybe even another letter to get to the student that you're looking for, but it's last name, then first name with no commas. You would click on the student and then click over here and go to your next student and continue that way. I'm not going to add any students right now because this is a sample notebook. Now, this is the student notebook and what sections they will have. I'm going to click over to my notebook so that you can see what that looks like, so you can decide how you would like to best implement it. Now, as you can see, this is my content library on the left-hand side with my teacher's editions. I've added the TE to this so the students know that they're not accidentally in this book and trying to do something and it doesn't work, because they cannot edit these content library pages. They can, however, once they're underneath their name, click on their page and edit in here. So what we're creating right now is the pages that the students are going to get. So my class is split up into vocab, classwork, essays, novels. We have a 40 book log and a reading log, and then TED Talks. If your class is, for example, maybe a history class or a math class where you function better by chapter, perhaps you want your sections for your students to be chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. And then that way you can put everything you need for chapter 1 in here and everything you need for chapter 2 in the next tab. It really depends on how your class functions. So once you are doing these, if you would like to go by chapter, I recommend changing these. And perhaps you do want a vocab section and a review section, whichever works best for you. If you're going by chapter, it might be easier just to have a chapter section for each. As I said, it's whatever works best for you. You can add more, or if you mess one up, you can delete them. And then these are the sections that will go in the kids' notebooks. Now we're going to get a quick little preview. The teacher version of your content library is still empty. I'll show you when to fill that. But if you click over here on the right for student notebook, you'll see that my students will have a chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4 section. A quick explanation before we move on any farther of the functionality of this and how I think of it. If you used to operate using a binder or even a spiral notebook, if you were using a binder, these are what I consider to be the tab dividers. So these are the dividers that I used to use in a binder. And then the pages over here are the worksheets or handouts that I would have given the kids. So instead of going to the copier now, I just put this in digitally. So this column is our sections, which is kind of like your tabs. And then these are the pages, and these are the pages or pieces of paper that I would have given the kids. So think about what you would want these to be set up as, what maybe your binder tabs would have been set up as. And if you've previewed your book, you can click Create. It might take a moment or two, but as soon as it opens, we're going to open it online. The first time you create a notebook, any notebook, you're going to want to open it online because that activates the notebook. Once it's been activated, so we're going to go ahead and click on OneNote Online, and that activates it. And all I did, as you can see, was click the Open in OneNote Online. And this is my class notebook online. Students can access this through My SCS and Office 365 at any time. As you can see, I didn't add any students, so I don't have any students right here, but I will show you a class I've created previously with students. If you are in the Sarasota County School District, once you've opened it online, we highly recommend using the app, which is the desktop version. So if you go to the Microsoft Store, it will default you to the main store page, and you'll want to click on the Sarasota County School District page because that's where your app is going to be. So I'm just clicking on Sarasota County School District. OneNote for Windows 10 is what we want, and I've already installed it, but you will need to click Install, and I recommend clicking Pin to Start and Pin to Taskbar. This is the taskbar at the bottom. It'll just pin this app right here so that it's always there for you. So now that we've created the notebook online, I'm just going to be working in the app so that you can see how it works. So you have now created your first notebook. You've decided what you want your student sections to be. You've decided whether you wanted one large notebook or different class period notebooks. And we've downloaded the app. Now the basic functions of OneNote, as I went over in the first part, because OneNote kind of describes this to you, is the content library, the teacher only section, which is where I keep my plan book in my plan notebook. So my planning book is right here. And then you have the student sections. Now you can probably see I've been flipping through. I have, because I've used OneNote for 8th grade before, I have an 8th grade notebook with no students in it, because that way I always have that for reference to create my plans from. If you would like, you can just create your lesson plans in the teacher only section of your period 1 or something like that. But because I teach 8th grade multiple years in a row, I have a notebook that has no kids in it ever, and I just use that. So now we're going to talk briefly about the main function of using the OneNote notebook, and one of the biggest benefits of it is creating and distributing pages. That will be in our intermediate video. So if you have created your notebook and you have your student sections and your content library set up how you want it, go ahead and hop on over to the intermediate video, and that is going to give you more information about the basic functionalities of your OneNote notebook.